Um, when you first heard about the Sandy Hook shooting, what was your first reaction?
I was really shocked.
Shock.
Well, as a mom, I was scared, but
Well, we have serious process and procedure that we follow. We lock down immediately, and those are the processes that I would follow. You know, trying to ensure the student's safety first, and to get as much help here immediately.
What was the first instinct, or what would be your first instinct as a teacher if you were in the same situation?
Well, I would like to think that I would be like one of the teachers that sacrifice themselves for their students, but I think that anybody who would say that is just trying to make themselves feel good. I don't think any of us really know exactly how we would be. I would do whatever I could to make sure my students and myself were safe, and I hope that I would be successful in that, but it would definitely be the scariest moment.
My
of
next
life.
question is, how has this event affected you?
Well, I certainly think about things differently in my classroom, mentally kind of prepare what would I do to make sure that my students and I were safe in a situation like that. But I mean, it just brings me, a whole lot of sadness. I wish that we could unite our politicians and everyone together so that we could actually do something about this so it's less of a common problem.
My last question is, when the propaganda about Sandy Hook never happening or that it was a hoax, did that change your perception or outlook on the incident?
Not on the incident, but on people. I think it's really sad that there's so many people that don't want to believe in the true horrors of humanity, and instead of acknowledging it, they just want to sweep it under the rug, pretend like it didn't happen. I think it takes real courage to admit that these things do happen and say we can't let them happen again.
Okay, thank you. My first question is, what was your first reaction to hearing of the incident?
Shock that occurred. Unfortunately, it happens too often these days. So, and being someone that works in that environment, it's just shocking. Hopefully, it never happens here.
My second question is, did Adam Lanza, the shooter, have a thorough plan or did he act on drugs?
Did he have a thorough plan or act on drugs? I don't know all that details, so I don't know.
What was the first instinct as a teacher would you have done in the same situation?
The same that a lot of the teachers are there. Part of our job is to protect, and I would, try to protect the students. I'd make sure I'd try to get them to safety, and I'm lucky that I have a room in my room that could be very protective, and, we may make sure we follow it when we do our lockdown drills.
My fourth question is, how has this event affected you?
I'd say unfortunately not too much, because I believe you never know if you're going to be ready if a situation like that happens like that. But I don't think it has affected me where it's changed what I'm going to do, because I've always thought that what I would do with that situation, because it wasn't the first. Unfortunately, it's not going to last. So it really hasn't changed me too much.
My last question is, when the propaganda about Sandy Hook never happening, being a hoax, did that change your perception or outlook on the incident?
No, because it'd be cruel.
Hello. My first question is, what was your first reaction to hearing of the incident?
I was really shocked. For somebody to walk in and shoot all those kids like that, I mean, it was crazy to me. You don't hear things like that every day. I mean, you're starting to hear them more now, but it's just still hearing it. It's just very shocking.
My next question is, did Adam Lanza, the shooter, have a thorough plan or did he act on drugs?
Well, I'm not entirely sure, but the way he went in there, I would not be surprised if it was drugs.
My third question is, what was the first instinct as an administrator when or would you have did the same situation?
Ooh, that's a good one. My first instinct as an administrator, I mean, you know, our first duty is to protect you all. So, I mean, I guess it's really just instinctual, but I'm not, I don't know, I guess I really can't say exactly
So my
what
first
I
question
would
is,
do.
what was your first reaction to hearing of the incident?
Oh, I was scared. I mean, working in a school, you get freaked out anytime you hear about kids being shot in a school.
Did Adam Lanza, aka the shooter, have a thorough plan or did he act on it in drugs?
From what I saw, it looked like he had a thorough plan. I mean, just what I've read.
My third question is, what was the first instinct as an administrator when or if you would have had the same situation?
Like, what would be the first reaction?
Yeah.
Well, the immediate thing that they would tell us is to lock our doors. And then after that, then they make the decision of whether or not we have to be on total lockdown or not.
And how has this event affected you?
I don't think it's changed anything that I do. I think I still would do the same procedures we practice, but it's not added anything to what I would do.
My last question is, when the propaganda about Sandy Hook never happening, being that everything was fake, being a hoax, did that change your perception or outlook on the incident?
No, it didn't. But I know what you're talking about. And I've seen a lot of stuff about propaganda lately, like with Paris. You know, like a lot of people are trying to say like all these situations didn't really happen. And I think that kind of devalues the people who died in the situation and their lives, because they did die. There was a situation.
My second question is, in your opinion, did Adam Lanza, what's his name?
Lanza.
Lanza, the shooter, have a thorough plan or did he act on drugs, as they say?
I think it may have been a mixture of both. It usually is. He definitely had a plan that he had in place because he purchased quite a bit of weaponry and went to a building, from my understanding, that a relative used to work at. And so I believe he did have a plan, but I think those type of plans are always enhanced with the use of drugs to, you know, give them that type of courage to go in and do something terrible like that.
And did you feel that Adam killed himself from guilt or to escape the sentencing at trial?
I think people who do those type of things have suicidal tendencies, and I think that was always his ultimate plan, was to kill himself. I think he just decided to go carry out this horrible crime before he ultimately took his life. I think that was probably the ultimate plan, was to kill himself. Mm-hmm.
And if you were placed in the same position as the student, what is your first instinct as a teacher or administrator?
Are you speaking of if there's a shooter in the building? Well, we have serious process and procedure that we follow. We lock down immediately, and those are the processes that I would follow, you know, trying to ensure the student's safety first, and to get as much help here immediately.
Okay. And my last question is, when the whole propaganda about the Sandy Hook shooting began being non-existent, how did you feel, and did it change your outlook on what happened?
Okay.
There's a lot of debate on whether it was the Sandy Hook shooting really happened. Did it really happen? Because they're comparing it to the Columbine shooting, where a lot of memorials are placed for it. With the Sandy Hook shooting, it only happened for like a good minute.
I think that we know it definitely happened.
There are so many victims now to talk about, 26 innocent lives lost, and Dan, I know you have more on that.
Bianna, yes, we now know their names, in fact, this morning. They are so young, all in the first grade, all of them shot more than once by a semi-automatic rifle. The medical examiner saying, mercifully, death was swift. He added this is the worst case he had ever seen. ABC's Amy Robach is back with more on this, and this is the hardest part.
And Dan, it's so true. Every day we learn more about the victims, and this story just gets harder and harder. This morning we know the names. We see the little faces of those sweet little boys and girls, and the teachers who love them, and the parents who so desperately miss them. 12 little girls and 8 little boys, all only in first grade, and the teachers who tried to save them. On Saturday, photos and details of lives cut short started to emerge.
The worst that I know of any of my colleagues having seen.
Noah Ponzer had just turned 6. His twin sister survived the shooting, but Noah did not. 7-year-old Grace McDonald, family members telling ABC News, our daughter